Well, hello everyone. Want to welcome you back to our village vlog. Today we have my friend Vanessa who's here. We're going to interview her, and we're just so happy to have you, Vanessa, here to tell your story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate it so much. We know how much courage it takes to sit down and talk about some vulnerable things, whether it's in your past or what you're going through now, but it really means so much to us, and I know to other parents who are going to hear this and maybe be encouraged or inspired. So just tell us a little bit, I guess, about what it was like growing up in your home.
Well, I grew up with 3 other siblings, 2 older sisters and a brother. The older sisters, they were kind of like the second parents to me. My parents were either busy working, or kind of the culture that we lived in at that time was a lot of going out and being with friends in the evenings, and so my sisters did a lot of taking care of me. And I was quite close to my brother growing up. The house was, I think my parents struggled with how to be parents, of course. It was not a time of a lot of information like we have now, where you can get all the resources that you need. There was definitely a lack of resources or knowing what to do in what situations, and I think there was a lot of struggles in that. My father definitely suffered with addiction, and so we did have addiction in the house, and it was contributing to kind of the struggles and ups and downs that we had in the family. A lot of what the addiction brought to our house was a lot of, I think it kind of took the focus off of parenting for my parents. They were busy trying to work, or this was just a hard thing for them to work through, and without the resources.
Absolutely, and that is, I mean, kind of the nature of addiction, to be all-encompassing, and so... Yeah. So, like, with, talking about, like, addiction, and it sounds like, your parents maybe weren't the primary caregivers for you. You identified that as your sisters, and so what was emotion like in your home? Was that something that was ever expressed or talked about, or...?
I think, again, part of what was going on in the culture, not just at the time, but what that created in our home was a lot of, suck it up, it's not that bad.
Right. Grin and bear it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah. Is there something wrong with you? Like, if there was something upsetting you, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. Not kind of like that emotional connection to what was going on. So, yeah, it was a lot of just grin and bear it. Yeah.
I feel like that was pretty common in those days.
Yeah.
My parents, same. I feel like a lot of us from that time, that lock key generation, come home to no one because our parents were working. And emotion, suck it up, I heard the same, very similar things sometimes.
Yeah.
How did that affect your parenting now?
Yeah, so I think where I kind of fell into it, initially with my children, was a lot of, it's not that bad, suck it up, this isn't that hard, why are you getting so upset? And it did take a lot of time, working on myself and working on my own addiction issues, to start understanding more taking care of myself and boundaries, and where I wasn't taking care of myself and where things were an issue and it wasn't okay to suck it up. I think I've really struggled with that, especially as an adult, where I've taken on so much to the point of exhaustion or the point of burnout, whereas there was a lot of steps along the way where I could have stopped and said, you know what, I need to take a break, and I need to get some self-care here and deal with this or work through this. And the gift in my children is that they were doing that from birth. They were recognizing that, you know what, no, this is not okay for me. This does hurt, or this is too much for me, and I don't want to be out all day, and it wasn't okay just to suck it up. They needed to address that and take care of that. So I think that's been a real gift for me to have in the children, is that I've kind of learned that along the way, that, that boundaries and taking care of yourself is so much more important.
And a lot of parents feel guilty for doing that. So that's really awesome that you would pay attention to that need.
Yeah, and I'm not the best at it. I'm not going to say that by any means. That's something I'm learning as I go along on this, but definitely I'm seeing it more and more, and starting to give my children a lot more space in that area to take care of themselves and make sure they have boundaries. And I've seen that come back to me in tenfold as a parent when I do that with my children, because they're able to learn more about that whole self-soothing, which is something I didn't learn growing up.
Isn't that incredible too, that it sounds like you had to learn it for yourself, and in doing that you were also able to give that space to your kids. Like, what an incredible journey. And like you said, Connie, we often feel so guilty about that, not realizing that that's what our kids need from us, is for us to actually take care of who we are, so we can show up for them the way they need.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they still continue to teach me that.
Yeah.
Like every day.
And I think that's so important, is to listen to the rhythms of what our kids are telling us, what our family life is telling us. That's so good that you pay attention to that, because I think sometimes we're so focused on what I should be doing or what our kids should be doing, but to sit down and just listen to what our particular kids need, what our family needs, like that's really special. That's something that incredible that you're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. I can even say like I'm probably at this point in time doing that even more so for one child and maybe not as much for another child, and I'm still working through the kinks of that. I think it still comes back to a lot of the issues around that is triggers from my upbringing and my past and my fears and concerns and worries, and that other child may trigger me a lot more, and I have to work through those triggers every time that comes up to be able to show up for him and be able to be more available for that.
And it sounds like you have so much self-awareness now, like talking about triggers and stuff, and I'm wondering, like, when did that first sort of, like, those dots connect for you, that you start to realize this?
Ooh, that is a difficult question for me to answer. I've been on a self journey for I could actually say back to 2000 even.
Wow.
But I think my greatest push of self-awareness has come from my work through my own addiction, my own addiction problems, and I think with that it's kind of helped peel away all of my safety blankets and really forced me to kind of really look at, how am I parenting, how am I showing up in life, how am I parenting, and what is this doing? So I think that's been my biggest movement in my own self journey. Yeah.
Wow. And
that's 17 years.
That is, yeah. Yes, it is.
So I love that you bring that up, because that shows that it really is a process.
And the more I do it, the more I see it's a process. It's that old saying, the more I know, the less I know. And yeah, so now today I realize I have much, much, much more to learn and do and grow, and I'll never be perfect at this. I will never get this right. But every day I just work at trying to be better. So that's all I can do.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And have you been able to find, support in this journey, talking about your own recovery, but also as a parent, what has that been like?
Whew. Yeah, I have been very blessed with a ton of support. I created a support system. I think that's something I learned back when I was in some really hard times as a teenager, was that the only way I was going to make it through this stuff was to create a support system. Yeah. I had to do that. Nobody else could do that for me. And I decided then I wanted to create a support system that was all kinds of different people. So it was my doctors, it was therapists, it was friends, it was just mentors, confidants, everything. So I've worked on that since I was young, and just put myself out there, networking and creating better friendships, creating better relationships with my other professionals that help me, and that's been very key to my development. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I hope that everyone listening has been encouraged by Vanessa's story. Someone who's overcome addiction, someone who's overcome a lot of adversity in her life, and yet been very active in working on the process. And so it shows us that there's hope. Everyone has what it takes to make it in their life. Everyone has what it takes to make it in their parenting. So I want to thank you for joining us today, Vanessa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And stay tuned for our next vlog.